What do you got for me?
Man, so I recently made this video because I got tired of just seeing like these Michigan fans in the comment section just talking about how Ohio State is gonna have this down year like Michigan did when they lost all their players. I'm like, I'm failing to see this parallel that they're just
Yeah,
so desperately wanting. It's just like the video I made, if you look back to after that 2015 season when they lost all those players at the draft, we're talking about Joey Bosa, Eli Apple, and a bunch of others. And Urban Meyer stayed head coach. You had Ed Warner and Tim Beck as offensive coordinator, QB coach. I said they were trash because they were no imagination. And then Luke Fickle as the defensive coordinator. I'm like, even though they lost all that talent, it was the recruiting trail that made up for it. And I don't
that's right.
think Michigan fans, like some Michigan fans, realize just how big that is to have top five recruiting classes year in and year out. Because they're still trying to make this parallel, even though Ryan Day has essentially done the same thing. He's had top five recruiting classes year in and year out. And you know what, dude? They keep moving the field goal post. At first it was, and I don't know if you agree with me, but at first it was he has Urban's players. Let's see what he does with his own players. And then just like literally up till now, look what he's done with his own
Yeah.
players. He's had top five recruiting classes. Now that they won a national championship, it's just like, okay, let's see what like once all these players are gone. I'm just thinking like you clearly just kind of don't understand why. Like, I'm sorry, but like the recruiting class that they've had, they're not going to have this giant fall off. I mean, even the coaching hires. I mean, even though like Jim Knowles and Chip Kelly are gone, who was the brains behind the operation? It was Ryan Day, and look what he's done.
Yeah.
He brought in Tim Walton. The secondary is looking a lot better since 2021, 2022. James Laurinaitis promotion because he fired Parker Fleming. He was able to promote him and put him on the recruiting trail. Look what it's done for recruiting the linebacker position. I can go on and on about this, but it just seems like a just a desperate take to be like we're the same program, but I know they're tuned in to their four straight wins, but if you look at the bigger picture past that game, I understand it's the biggest rivalry in all of college football. If you look at the bigger picture, we're not the same program. What are your thoughts?
Well, to your point, the whole reason why Michigan fell off last year was because they didn't have the recruiting for years and years backed up where they were able to replenish all of that talent. The reason why Michigan was so good the last few years is because they had an elite coaching staff, like Jim Harbaugh and his guys. Let's call it let's call it what it was. They were able to get the most out of guys, especially when they weren't as highly touted of a recruit, and that's how they built their program. They didn't get a whole lot of 5 star, flashy guys. Now, sure, they got some of them. I mean, JJ McCarthy was a 5 star recruit. I think Will Johnson was a 5 star recruit, but they didn't have enough of those guys built up in the depth to sustain once they lost all that talent after the national championship year. Ohio State, even though they lose 15 starters from last year's national championship team, they've still got guys who are coming in that are 5 star recruits. Like you lose Will Howard as your quarterback, okay, let's bring in 5 star recruit Julian Sayin. You lose, Trevion Henderson, Quinshon Judkins at running back, okay. We've got James Peoples, who's a 4 star recruit, and we bring in a transfer portal guy, CJ Donaldson. You still got 5 star recruits at wide receiver. Pretty much every 1 through 4, they're 5 star guys. Then you go ahead and get the best tight end in the portal, and your offense is pretty much set because you got offensive linemen who, even though Ohio State loses 4 out of the 5 starting linemen that they had to start last season, like they're gone, they've got 4 guys who played a lot of football last year. Especially towards the CFP run. So they're going to be fine there. The secondary, you've got probably the best defensive player in college football in Caleb Downs. Again, you're able to get him from the transfer portal, 5-star guy. Your corners, you got, Davison Igbinosun, who is a freshman All-American Ole Miss before he transferred in last year. Yes, he commits a lot of penalties. He's still pretty good. Got Jermaine Matthews at the other end. And again, you go down the line and like Devin Sanchez, 5-star recruit coming in as a true freshman. I don't think he's to play a whole lot this year, but he might. My point is, and your point also, is the depth that this team has is based off of the recruiting wins that they were able to get over the last few years. That's not something that Michigan has. So when they fall to 6-6, 7-6, whatever they ended up being last year, you see it because they didn't have the same level of coaching. Like Sharon Moore is a downgrade. Like, let's just call it what it is from Harbaugh. And until he's able to build that recruiting base back up, they're not going to be a playoff team. Unfortunately, their schedule is baby shit soft next year, like this year. So they might luck into a playoff spot. Like, they don't play anyone good until Ohio State. So just based off of sheer easiness on their schedule, they have an outside shot this year. But next year, their schedule is a lot harder. And I don't see them making the playoff in 2026 unless they have a